We have to approve that, so there might be a conflict where you might have to. Hey, what's up, what else doing? I got it.
Play first.
These need to be down.
He's a
Yeah,
Right of way first, then sidewalks, then sanitation.
okay, all right. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be joined here with the DPW committee meeting in regards to right-of-way, sidewalks, and our sanitation program that we got going on. Pleased to be joined by President Pro Tem Hogan, Councilor Nave, Councilor Paniagua, Councilor Jones-Rouser, our team from engineering, and also we have the new second chief, as we call Corey before you got there. But we'll let you guys go through your slides first. I'm going to ask that everyone please hold your questions until we see everything first, and then we'll ask questions after that, and we'll move on to the next item and do the same thing for that as well. So I believe we're going to start with Mary first.
Yep. Actually, to go through the slides, Mirza Malkoch from engineering will go through the slides. He works on a regular basis with our contractors working in our right-of-way, along with Matt Fiato from DPW, and John Cavelhan, division engineer from engineering. So I will pass it to Mirza.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So pretty much I'm going to present the summary table right here. After that, I will provide you some photos of private utility companies that do work in the city's right-of-way on a regular basis. After that, we will present you the violations, fine fee schedule, the summary for the fee schedules, and the worksheet. But to begin, first, I would like to talk about the summary cost analysis, just to go over the columns that you see here. The first column is projects. We have 6 examples. The next one is the project complete? All of these projects that we're going to present today are completed. Did they receive a road cut permit? It's a yes or no. Some of them did receive a road cut permit, some of them didn't. A road cut permit is pretty much to do work in the right-of-way. The current fee for a road cut permit is $100, and that covers the review for all city departments, which, well, not all of them, but that are designated to review road cuts, which is, for example, engineering, DPW, parks, water. Also, the $100 covered the permit processing fee, which, just to prepare the permit and issue the permit, and also inspections. So as you guys can see right off the bat, $100 is not enough for all of the stuff that we do for just the road cut permit. The next column is the completed right-of-way work as per the approved site plans. All of those examples, none of them did follow the approved plans or City of Syracuse specifications, standards, which I will go into more depth as the presentation goes forward. The next one is the permanent road cut maintenance fee received. This one is, right now we are collecting that fee every time a project cuts into a road, into a city road. There is maintenance fee that's required. It's based on square footage, and the only way we can collect that is if they apply for a permit. If they don't apply for a permit, we can't collect that fee. So the red means we're losing money. The green is we gained money for a certain project, which I will talk about it as we go forward. The next one is uncompleted work or corrections required in the right-of-way. I will present that with photos and in more depth as we go down the road. And the next one is estimated construction costs not completed in the right-of-way. Pretty much this is how much it would cost the city to correct the deficiencies per project. And then the last slide is parking revenue lost. Most of these projects are not in areas where we charge for parking, but we just wanted to show you one examples of the significant loss that we accounted for just one project, which is at the bottom. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
Are companies doing work without getting a permit?
Yes.
And
Yes.
we know who they are?
Yeah, sometimes we find out later on, once the project is done or halfway, and we have no mechanism right now to, issue them a fine, stop them. Like, we can just say stop work order, but the work is already done. So what can you do? Nothing.
So that's why we're implementing a violations fine schedule. That's one reason.
But why aren't we able to stop them if they're
Well,
doing the work? Why aren't we able to stop them?
We do stop them if we catch them during construction. Sometimes they complete the work
Before you know.
before we
even
know,
find out.
or as they're finishing it, which, it's pointless, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so you made a comment, it's too late. It's not too late. You know what they did? We go and we find them. And just let them know that we don't, the city of Syracuse, we don't do business like that. And I think we have to find them after the fact, okay? And say, hey, we don't do it in this city. Okay, we're tired of scofflaws coming in this city and doing what they feel like it, because I'm dealing with a lot of people who think they're above the law, they got their nose in the air, and we don't do it, and we're gonna fine them. That's why we're losing a lot of revenue.
Well, that's why we're implementing this now.
That's
That's
why
exactly
we're-
right, Counselor. That's why we have this ordinance in front of you, so that we have the teeth to hold our infrastructure partners responsible. Can you slide over to the right hand of here, Mirza? So it's not just the permitting fees that are lost, all of the good work that our many teams do to ensure that the work is accurate. It's holding our stakeholders responsible for when they don't do the job that they're supposed to do. So that second to right column there shows that for each of these 6 example projects, the city had to fill the hole to repair these issues to the tune of $40,000 to $80,000 for each one, right?
And that's
the-
under, I'm sorry, is
That's
that under the permanent maintenance fee?
That's an estimated construction costs not completed in the right of way.
Okay.
And so this happens, dozens and dozens of times per year. These are just 6 different examples that showcase the breadth of the different types of work where this happens. And Mirza's going to just in a minute show some photographs to communicate what this looks like. But just on these 6 examples, the city's had to fill the gap to fix the problem to the tune of $250,000.
So not only they don't apply for permits, now they leave us with the end of the work to get done by us.
Well, in some of these cases, they had agreed to put in sidewalk, as Mirza will show in a minute. And in those particular cases, I don't believe, have installed the sidewalk yet. But it's something work that they agreed to do, an improvement they agreed to do, and, then they don't do it.
So I know this is why we're here, and we're here to look into this, but before you guys throw out some numbers, have you guys calculated or thought about whatever fines you're gonna impose, multiplying that to a certain degree to hold in escrow so that we don't have to come back and spend our own money?
Nope, that's exactly what we're doing with the new right-of-way fee schedule, which we'll get to. So let's let Mirza go through the photos, and then we can go through the schedules and any other questions.
Okay, so this is example 1, and I will go back to the summary table, but, so pretty much this is a project, and I'll just go briefly. They supposed to install a sidewalk on Hamilton Street with a couple of 4 trees with structural soil. On Lowell Street, they supposed to install a sidewalk with a tree, structural soil, with a pull-off area for parking, which I'm going to show you right now. The first photo, what happened is they never applied for a permit. They just did it the way they felt like doing. So they installed a sidewalk not per the plans that I just showed you. The alignment is off, the location is off. So to complete this block, if the city ever wants to complete this block, the sidewalk is useless. It's going to have to be ripped out and redone again. The curb that was installed along North Lowell It's already tilted, it's not aligned right. They just did it the way they felt like, the contractor felt like it's the right way of doing it, not incorporating the whole block to make sure it's aligned for the future projects.
You can see where the curb is not right, but how does the sidewalk not right?
So
It
if you,
doesn't line
if
up
you-
with the-
Yes, so if you look at this right here, you see how it has a jog right
just-
here?
So they didn't apply for sidewalk permit?
They did not apply for a roll call permit for any of this work that you see right there. They never received a roll call permit from the city.
Okay. let's
They
go
received a
back.
building permit.
They received a building permit,
slide.
they must have received the they pulled the sidewalk permit, didn't they?
No.
Okay, so they received a building permit, nobody saw any kind of, what kind of plans were involved with the building permit?
So building permit is just inside the property to do building inside.
So
but
nobody asked them if they were gonna do anything outside or anything, right?
Well, it's impossible for DPW to look at it because they're not aware of this project because there's no permit. It's the,
Maybe,
so,
maybe this is what I'm talking about, maybe we should integrate the departments more as far as like knowing what's going on.
yes, I mean, I agree with that, but we also put conditions in the building permit, no right-of-way work is allowed until they receive the roll call permit. So the contractors are aware of it in the permit. It says, any work in the city's right-of-way, you are required to submit for a roll
Who
call
did the
permit.
sidewalk?
I don't know, we don't know.
There's only a couple of companies that do sidewalks.
Yeah, but we don't know.
There's like-
We met with the general contractor, I mean, I don't want to mention names right now, but
Well, if it
pretty
was
much,
somebody that we used to put sidewalks in, they probably.
no, but I don't know, you
Or
don't
somebody
know.
from.
We don't know,
Fulton?
it can be anyone.
Jessica, could you talk for just a minute about the coordination and the intake that our permit department works across different departments on, to respond to the counselor's question?
Sure. Good afternoon, counselors. Jessica Brandt, Director of the Permit Office. Like Mirza had mentioned, so when they apply for a building permit, there are conditional approvals. We have a couple project managers that handle all of our commercial and residential permit applications. So they also play a part in kind of coordinating and sharing this information with our applicants. We certainly let them know a building permit is just for the building. Any work that is done in the right of way certainly would require those types of permits.
So, thanks, Jess. So pretty much, sorry, this must not.
I guess another question for me would be, where would the, I'm gonna charge you for that. I guess my question would be, where would the fault be at on our side? Because it seems as though you got contractors that would come in and just apply for a permit, and just
Yeah.
because they have a permit, then they go above and beyond and do more things. When the permit is being given, and then you guys get involved at what point, or who's doing the inspection, or who's doing what?
It depends, I mean, inside the private property, it's codes, but outside the private property, so in public right-of-way, it's
Yeah.
DPW.
To be deep, okay.
But if we don't know they're doing the work because they never apply for a permit, then nobody
That's
really
correct.
evaluates if it's good or bad.
That's correct.
Codes inspectors that are doing inspection for any trades permits or a building permit, if they see any work, including in the right-of-way, sidewalk, anything like that, they're good about letting the contractor know, whoever's on site. There are efforts on the code enforcement side as well, if we catch unpermitted work, to let them know, first of all, you need a permit for what you're doing, and get them connected with the appropriate folks to get that.
Who made all those markings on the curb?
That's DPW, they came along because they want to improve the whole Lowell Street.
Oh, so they didn't, they just assumed that sidewalk had been put in?
I'm sorry?
They just assumed that sidewalk was put in by one of our contractors, right?
No, they came along because they want to improve the whole Lowell, the
Were the
whole
markings
block.
made before the sidewalk or after the sidewalk?
After the sidewalk. So this corner was not touched by the developer.
Okay.
If you can see the color differences.
So to the right of it is a new one?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. DPW just wants to improve that block at one time. I mean, I'm hoping this year, I mean, I don't know, but pretty much they wanted to install curb, sidewalk, and all of that, piggyback on that project. just keep on going, wherever they left off, but it's wrong. Along Hamilton Street, they're supposed to install sidewalk, concrete sidewalk with trees, then as you can see by the photo, they never did that.
I
mean, they
hate to
installed-
belabor this,
Go ahead.
but, so they're going up to Hampton, they already put in a sidewalk we didn't know about. But then you're saying they would have had to pull a sidewalk permit to go up Hamilton, the same outfit, or what?
Yes, because when they applied for a building permit or a site plan review, they said if you see the plans, they said they will install sidewalk along Hamilton Street with the planting of the trees and the structural soil for the trees underneath the sidewalk. Can you
So-
see, so these 4 trees that you see along here with the sidewalk on Hamilton Street, that was during the site plan review process, they promised the city that they will do this work. And that's how the city decided to give them a permit.
So who closed out the permit? Isn't that still part of the process with the building as well? Like you're looking at all of that, so the permit is closed out at some point?
So I'm assuming, the building permit is the building permit, so everything inside the building is compliant. So they received, I'm assuming, the CO because the building is in compliance to the standards, but
The work was done after the closing of the permit? It wasn't?
no, they were doing it at the same time, but they
So
decided to
somebody
just
saw
do
something.
work in the city's right-of-way without receiving the additional permit in the right-of-way.
So that'll be to my comment earlier, they're just getting a permit and then they go above and beyond
Yes,
outside
and
of
we
what they're
put
supposed to do.
conditions,
Right.
but, they usually say, well, it's just a condition, I'm not reading the permits.
Right.
And that's why we want to implement it now, saying like, okay, well, there's a violation for that.
Right.
You better read what you're a qualified contractor, you're a qualified general construction manager that needs to read all the conditions that are outlined in every permit.
Well, they put a sidewalk in on Lowell that they weren't supposed to, correct?
No, they were supposed to install sidewalk along Lowell as well, if you can see, with a jog at the right alignment, with the curb right here, from here going this way, jog, pull-in area, with a tree.
Can't see the mouse.
Do
Do we have a pointer at all or no?
I don't think so.
No?
pretty much, I can get up, but I don't want to take too much.
No, it's just that this is.
So
this-
pretty much, they're supposed to install sidewalk along here.
Which they did, but they didn't get a
Tree
permit,
in
right?
here with the structural soil, on Hamilton sidewalk, trees, structural soil, curb, and they're not showing on this plan utility connections. So any utility connection, sewer, water, gas that was required for this project, they got into here, got into our right-of-way, cut it into a road without a permit. So now they have water and everything else inside the building, but no one reviewed the restoration, everything else inside the city's right-of-way. So there's just one example. I'll go back to the,
So this is one example of many.
yes, well, of
Do
the
you have an
six.
idea of how many are those?
Well, we don't know.
don't
There's always something that's missed, which is understandable, but these are like outrageous kind of stuff for the right-of-way. So if we go back to the, just show you,
Can we
just
quickly
show you
walk
some.
through the summary, just for Counselor Williams' benefit, just to catch him up to speed?
Much appreciated.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. So summary, the summary table, I will go back and forth. This was the first example, first project. I'll repeat all the columns again. Project complete, all of these projects that we're gonna show are completed. Received a ROCA permit. Some of them did receive a ROCA permit, some of them did not receive a ROCA permit. A ROCA permit is pretty much giving you permission to do work in the city's right-of-way. We currently charge $100 per ROCA fee. That includes review, inspections, and permit processing. All of these permits, all of these examples did not follow the approved plans that we gave them or city standards or specifications. Permanent ROCA maintenance fee, that's standard right now. We charge, if you cut into a road, we charge square footage. Depending on the square footage, that's how we base the fee. If you don't apply for a permit, we don't charge you, so we lose revenue on that. The next column, uncompleted work or corrections required in the right-of-way. This is something that I just explained for example 1, which is sidewalk, curbing, tree planting, tree pits, road restoration, all that. So to correct these deficiencies and do it the right way for this project, it would cost the city about $75,000 with the
Councilor-
current prices that we have with our contractors.
So these two columns here are the most important ones, right? So there are fees that we should be receiving. This ordinance will give us the teeth to make sure that we're getting them, but also to make sure that the work that is getting done is being done to the agreed upon specifications and that we're not on the hook for, just from these 6 examples, $250,000 of additional cost to repair work that should have been done by our stakeholders.
And then the last column is parking revenue lost. Most of these examples don't qualify, but I just want to say the last example, this is how much we lost just for one project.
And in terms of what you have up here, do you have a running or ongoing spreadsheet with all the projects that are happening, or did you
No.
cherry pick?
No, this
a
is
certain amount
something
of-
that we just determined. These are 6 examples that we want to present to you guys, but I don't know, I mean, it's, yeah, we don't.
Each of these 6 examples highlights a certain perspective of where an error was made and not, everybody doing their predetermined roles and responsibilities. But we do believe that they're indicative of the broader challenges around something, why this ordinance is being put into effect.
And these are some photos, I just want to skim through, like, road restoration, stuff like that. This is how it looks, for example.
Picking on Tipperary Hill
I
pretty
know,
bad.
Counselor.
This is just one example, I'm not. Don't worry, I'll go to
You're
Eastwood.
lucky
too.
Coleman wasn't alive.
All right, anyways, example number 2. So this project, So this project, they applied for a permit, but they never did the work that they promised in the permits to do, which means they're supposed to install sidewalk along the road, along their property with the tree pits and planting the trees. Here's some photos. Pretty much this is what they did. I mean, they didn't do anything. They didn't install the sidewalk. They didn't plant the trees.
So what do
Or
we do
the-
now? So what do we do now?
So what do you mean, what do you do now? Like,
They didn't live up to their bargain. There's no process of.
well, that's why we would, with this new ordinance, with the revised ordinance, we would probably, we would fine them or do something. I don't know. I mean,
We would fine them, and we would be holding a refundable fee, which represents all the elements of work, and if they don't complete the work, then they don't get their refundable fee back.
How much would that fee be? If we look at the far column,
That's
That's this.
$43,000.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And we would have an amount in excess of that.
It tends to reflect the value of the work.
Yeah.
We don't do like 1.5 times. We do the value of the work.
So for example, number 2, same thing. The project is complete. Road cut was received. We did receive the $100. They did not follow the approved plans that we gave them permission to do. Road cut permit fee was not required for that project because they did not cut into the road. The deficiencies are sidewalk, tree planting, and tree pits. And the estimated value for us to do this is $43,000. No parking revenue was lost because in that area, we don't charge for parking.
We only do assessment upon completion, or do we go at different times to see if the work is being done correctly?
Well, with this new implemented procedure one of the handouts is a questionnaire type form, right-of-way work is the header. And this is what the contractor will have to fill out when he's submitting a permit application. And then based on what the contractor fills out, we will determine the non-refundable fee and the refundable fee, which he will have to provide in order to receive a permit.
So, but my question is, do we
And then,
go through their faces and review
Right.
that everything is done correctly?
so then
or-
as, you know, construction progresses, there could be examples where they change the scope of the work, and, you know, they might say they're only gonna do 100 feet of sidewalk, and they do more, in which case they
They
would
have
be
to come back
fined.
to us to get approved
Yep.
by changing that?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, that's what
Or
I
there
was
might be a
gonna,
case where they have to dig more, you know, than they estimated because of the underground utilities. So yes, we will assess it during the construction, and then when we do our final inspection, we will also assess it and adjust the fees accordingly.
is there a breakdown between either the BZA or CPC and the permitting department? Whereas companies or organizations are going through the BZA or CPC process, and once they're approved, either through the council or those two boards, are they thinking that they're good to go? They don't have to go through permitting because they think they're already approved for work?
I don't think so. Jessica, do you have an opinion on that?
I do believe in some instances that is the case. Certainly heard where people have made it through a zoning application and they think, I've got everything I need. We actually currently ran into something very similar with the Wedge, 2800 James Street, where they got a zoning permit application and then they went ahead and started construction. An inspector went out there and was like, hey, you don't have any permits, you can't be doing this. So in some instances, yes, we do believe that is the case, although the permit office does do to the best of our ability in letting applicants know that's not a building permit. You do still need to apply for this thing, but in some instances, yep, they might.
Yeah, I do believe that is a part of an issue, especially if it's not a local company that's doing the work and they don't know some of the guidelines that our city has, then they think that step is the step and not doing the full due diligence. So I just say that to say we might need to empower the BZA and CPC to also make sure that they're stressing that they need to be getting these items. And I don't know who they then like, who's checking on that? I don't know.
I was grabbing her mic before she was done talking. In terms of the non-refundable fees, Mary, you talked about additional administrative burden. You talked about an inspection during the construction. You talked about an inspection after the fact. Does the fee structure support all of the additional work that we have to put out, in terms of inspectors going out, in terms of the burden administratively? What percent are we recouping compared to what are we losing on just the procedural components?
Well, I think with the newly implemented schedules, we've tried to think of everything, and we've updated this multiple times. Actually, we have a couple more tweaks that we need to send you, but it is in your handout. The handout is the most recent version. But to the best of our capability, we've tried to include everything.
I would say, take my hat off to you and your team and everybody that was involved with this, because, we know this has been going on for years. And it's another step to move forward to make sure that everybody's doing things the right way, according to what we have here in the city of Syracuse as far as permits go. If there's any more details on this, I can cut you, for the sake of time, I can cut you off free, and then we can go to the sidewalk program.
Okay.
If there's any more questions.
Why don't we just jump to the right-of-way violations fee schedule? This is a brand-new schedule. We currently have no violation fines. So this would cover fines for unpermitted work, reinspection, stop work order, not completing work per the approved plans, and any permit conditions that we put in the permit. That's one of our adds that we recently added. Not following standards, and then, not installing, maintaining work zone traffic control and staging areas, maintaining pedestrian safety control, unauthorized tree removal, unauthorized tree pruning, any disturbance to our survey monuments, and unpermitted occupation in the right-of-way. And then the right-of-way fee schedule is the second attachment. We've updated our existing fees and included other fees for work in the right-of-way, such as the block party, liability waiver, and other fees like that. We've added a lot of fees, specifically towards the bottom of page 1, the asphalt pavement disturbance, that is a current fee right now, but anything below that, granite curb, concrete sidewalk, brick paver, and all the way through page 2 are all new fees that we're proposing.
I know that we want to get through it, but I have a question about the maintenance part, because I don't know if that falls under this new asphalt pavement disturbance, but I've seen where companies, they're doing like road work or curbing work, and they replace the asphalt, but 3-4 months down the road, that asphalt has like sunken in. Is that a part of maintenance? Like, are we?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have, as Mirza showed on the chart there, we have a permanent maintenance fee. That's a fee that we keep for all cuts in the right-of-way, because any cut in the right-of-way has an impact. Even if you do the best repair, it still degrades the pavement. And then the refundable fee would be their quality of work in the right-of-way. And if they don't meet that quality of work or our standards, then we would withhold that portion of money that applies to that work that was deficient. And we hold it for a year. So if 3 or 4 months down the road, we would catch that. If it's a year and a half down the road and they've asked for their refundable portion back, then, we've lost it. We thought a year was a fair period of time.
Mary, have you thought about formalizing the medallion program and trying to identify who is doing the cuts and kind of the longevity of the repairs that they do?
What did you, the milling?
The medallion program,
Oh,
where you
the
put
medallion.
the color into the repair.
I don't think we're doing that anymore. Matt,
Is
do you
there
know
a reason why,
the medallion?
and was there a benefit?
Are we still using those? National Grid is, are other utilities using them? Okay, so if National Grid does a cut, they're supposed to put their medallion in.
Is there any reason not to expand it beyond grid?
I defer to DPW. Gotta get out.
We basically have just required National Grid to, Matthew Fiato with Department of Public Works. National Grid is really the only one that we require to do the medallions. That's something that we could implement, with our new plan. Anybody getting road cuts or permits for road cuts, we could start implementing the medallions.
I was saying maybe even a stamp that's for companies that's not like National Grid or AT&T or Verizon, like a regular contractor per se. They may have a stamp that they can utilize so we can identify.
Well, they
who did
do
what.
that with the sidewalk program, but
Yeah.
doing it in the asphalt, I don't think would really work.
It would say,
That's
okay.
why we went with the medallions, because they press them into the new
Yeah.
asphalt, and they're pretty durable. So that's something, when they get the permits, we could hand those out to the contractors.
So then the last form, which I mentioned earlier, is the City of Syracuse right-of-way work. This form is not part of the official ordinance, but we wanted to show it to you. This is when someone comes to apply for a permit, they have to fill out this form, and then we will take this form to develop their permit fee, permanent, non-refundable fee and refundable fees. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we will monitor whether they're following what they said in terms of quantity of work and quality.
Any more questions? All right, thank you for that. All right, we're going to
All right, thank you. We're going to go on to sidewalks
sidewalks.
next.
Perfect.
Jeremy, you're with me.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mirza. Appreciate it.
That should be good. All right, good afternoon, councilors. We're on part 2 of our agenda. We're talking about the city's municipal sidewalk program and specifically the request to release some capital improvement funding for this year's program. So just as a reminder, this program was initiated in 2021. It's a planned maintenance program that enhances and expands the city's network of sidewalks. We use data from SMTC and a number of other sources to identify where improvements are made and focus on areas of high pedestrian demand, areas around schools, community centers, things like that. Just a couple quick pictures of the excellent work that this program has done. Sidewalks are a public asset. Sidewalks are an economic development instrument to invest in our neighborhoods, increase property values. This program is going into its 5th year of operations. We have a dedicated funding stream as part of the sidewalk fee that you all are familiar with, and just a couple examples of the high quality work that gets done when it's permitted correctly. Last thing here, so this program has grown pretty significantly over the past couple of years. We started in 2021, did about 4 miles of sidewalks. Last year we did 14 miles. So the reason why we've increased our allocation or increased our request for capital dollars to $7 million is because of the growing size of that program. And that $7 million is intended to be reimbursed through program fees and also some CHIPS funding as well. So that is actually the extent of the presentation. This is just a question. This is just some excellent photographs of the high quality of work. And here to answer any questions about the program or this specific request for $7 million from our capital, our CIP.
Connor, when, I guess this has been back and forth for a while. You know what I'm going to ask?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we do.
Sidewalk. When
Driveways.
somebody tries to pull a sidewalk permit,
Yep.
are we all set and letting them know about the sidewalk program? Meaning that they might not have to pay $20,000 or $25,000 and they could wait maybe 2 years and get a sidewalk through this program?
We can ensure that when someone goes to pull a permit, that they're aware of the municipal sidewalk program.
How do we make them
They
aware?
weren't, so are you sure now?
Neil, go ahead.
Afternoon, Neil Burke, DPW. Great question. We've heard it a couple of times before, and yes, so
Maybe 30 times before. Yeah.
maybe more, maybe less. So when DPW reviews the driveway permits, if we know that street's on to get their sidewalk replaced, we'll tell them. We'll work with permit staff, we'll reach out to them and say, hey, do you want to wait? If it's not on the work plan, there's not a lot we can do, but I believe there's basic language in the permit now that says, you know, there is a municipal sidewalk program. It's not by request, but if you need more information, it's available.
Well, I just want to make sure that they know, and maybe they sign off saying, I'm completely aware of the municipal sidewalk program, but I still want the sidewalk permit. Can we do that just to, because then we got proof that they've actually been informed.
I think we can absolutely work with you to make sure that that specific language is in place for that, to inform the resident of the broader program, absolutely.
Right.
What do you mean by if their sidewalk is on the list? Because I thought we were doing all sidewalks at some point.
We
But Are
will.
you saying for that year?
Yes, for that year, or if we know we'll have a carryover for the next season. So we have a good idea of where we may be, but if it's not on the list right now, that means it could be several years before we get there. And we've got decades and decades of deferred maintenance. I wish we could be done, but we're going to keep going year after year. We never end. So you may do your driveway now. We may show up in 20 years to do the sidewalk. Hopefully, it's a lot shorter than that.
We had a number of sidewalks that were already done in the past year, that were already done, then they're notified, and now we tear down their new sidewalks, and then we put new ones in. How are they how are they reimbursed? I mean, can't you just say, okay, you get a new sidewalk put in, that's fine. Why are we just like tearing them down and putting new sidewalks in again?
So we don't remove sidewalks without fully evaluating the situation. So sometimes they need to move, so we have greater snow storage area, especially when we're working with our friends in the forestry department. Sometimes they need to be adjusted for grade. We can't always match what exists, but if it's good and we can use it, we use it, because that means $1 saved on our end, and we still have a completed block of nice new sidewalk.
That's those are complaints I've heard, you know.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen from time to time, but we do try and avoid it as much as we can.
So what about where, go ahead. What about where people are, and I haven't had any complaints, but not that I had to report, where people have had their sidewalks have been done, and once it crossed the driveway, like portions of their driveway or their total driveway was from the right-of-way side was taken out, but it wasn't replaced with the same product.
So yes, you as an individual can purchase a number of different materials from a contractor. What we put back meets the state standard. It's very high quality. It might not look exactly the same as the 7-year-old driveway you had done that you love, but we try to do our best to match. And that's part of the constructability aspect. We do have to excavate a little bit wider than the sidewalk.
Well, in this instance, it would have been like one or two that I know of that had concrete at that portion, but when it was replaced with blacktop.
Yeah, typically we'll match what was there, and if there's an example where that happened, you can send it our way. Sometimes, if we're late in the season, we hold that repair over, but we do try and match what was there. So if it was asphalt, you get asphalt back. If it was concrete, we try and put concrete back.
What do we do in the case? I'm sorry, you had a question. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, if a resident want to request a sidewalk outside of the city plan for whatever year, do we work with those residents, or do we send them to somebody else to work with them?
So we don't undertake this work by request, but if they do want, we hear this a lot. Hey, are you going to be on my block this year? I'm trying to sell, or I'm downsizing, I'm doing whatever. We'd love the curb appeal. And unfortunately, if you're not on the work plan, we can't show up and do it for you. But it doesn't stop you, the resident, from pulling a permit. If they want more information, we're happy to give it to them. We do a lot of estimates and a lot of help on that end, because it helps us to help them so that we have a good quality product in the right of way, so that when we do replace that sidewalk, we don't have to tear it up later.
Okay.
Just one more question. How are the streets determined? Is it by the amount of damage, the amount of complaints, the amount of incidents? Like, how have all of this been determined?
So it is not by complaint. It is by condition, and it is by related to some of the things Connor mentioned, which is pedestrian demand. So if you look at where we typically are, we're connecting neighborhoods together. We're around schools. We're leading to grocery stores, pharmacies, areas like that. We also have to balance the amount of work that we do by quadrant each year. So it is a multifaceted process, but that's why we tap the best of the best with SMTC to help us with it.
So in the case that we have sidewalks being done, right, and we have, let's say, National Grid or somebody comes and does the work, and they mess up the grade and just doesn't replace it the way that it was. As far as constituent base goes, what do they do? Because I do have a constituent currently on the east side. He had his sidewalk was done. I guess National Grid or somebody came by and cut it up, did what they had to do, and then when they put it back, it's not to the same grade, and it also creates a trip hazard in front of his house. He doesn't want to be the one responsible for that if anything were to happen.
So that would be an area where the constituent would interface directly with Grid, but we try to help if we can. We will try and work with them and add pressure to the utility company to make it right. Because again, that kind of gets back to what we were just talking about. We want the best quality product out there right now if you're doing something, if you're doing work. So when it comes to Grid, We have a great inspector on our team with Matt. We also have the sidewalk inspector. We do a lot of coordinating, we'll say, with Grid. But we can always get better. We can always do more. But if somebody needs help, we'll try and help them as much as we can.
That's a safe word, Neil.
Commissioner, I'm going to ask you a question. So we put a lot of money into the sidewalks. So why have we neglected the sidewalks on our city-owned property, specifically city parks?
So the Parks Department is responsible for sidewalks because they have a capital plan. So
Okay,
if a
so-
department has a
alright.
capital plan, we work with the Parks Department to help them with their costing. We've allowed them to use our contractors. They have to program that. We're happy to work with them.
'Cause I got a section that was last done in 1959, and you can just trip over it. And what amazes me, whether you're in Department of Parks, Department of DPW, we need to work together. And I mean, you can see all this work done, but you go through some of the parks, the Mount Park, Union Park, First Ward Cemetery, we got neglected sidewalks on city-owned property that continue to be neglected. And we're spending all this money on, and we should take care of our own house.
Yes, so again, we're happy to work with Parks. We do each season to help them with their capital planning program. And again, with our contractors, their expertise, they have a great planning staff as well. We interface pretty regularly, but I wish we could have it all done today.
Yeah, but this is just like, I mean, I got one park and I can show you. It says 1959 was this done. That's uncalled for.
That's
If
new
someone
for
trips
some of
or
our
falls,
walks.
the city, that's why we got to make sure every department in this city is working together, communicating with each other. And sometimes it's not happening. Now, maybe I'm wrong saying it, but
Connor, you're in charge of the Parks Department now, too, aren't you?
I am.
Okay, so you got that message from...
I do, Counselor. If
Knight?
you could give me that specific location that you're looking for, I can work with the Parks Department to see how we can work on that.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Counselor, just your comment about department coordination. I know it's not the intention of today, but we have been making some pretty significant investments in our programs around providing our frontline teams the tools to document and communicate the work that gets done across different departments. One of those examples, when I came to you about a year ago, we were talking about GIS and work order management. And we're going to be launching a new work order management system in our Parks Department in April
Okay.
that we're incredibly excited about.
So when Commissioner Williams charged Park, I brought him over in these areas and he saw it firsthand and had it documented and did work with DPW. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I got a silly question for the trees, though. I do.
We're jumping a tree.
Well, the trees with the
but then I want
sidewalks
to come
and
back
stuff,
to talk
you know?
money.
With the new trees that are being planted on this, along the sidewalks parts, like especially when we did the Save the Rain project and everything like that, like, it's an act of God for the roots to maybe cause the shift in the concrete or break the concrete up and all that, and we'll be responsible for taking care of that, right? Or is that another?
Steve Harris, City Arborist, could you, you're asking who's responsible when the tree roots heave a sidewalk?
Yes.
Well, I mean, for all this time, it was the property owner, like it was with the sidewalk. Now we're addressing that in concert with the sidewalk repair, with these whole system repairs, where we're either removing or keeping the tree if we can, negotiating with DPW about what the sidewalk width can be, or if we can do curves or ramps. We try and minimize that, but also sometimes we get individual calls from property owners when a tree is heaving a sidewalk, and when they are outside that system, we only address issues where it's a big, healthy specimen tree, and we have a vested interest in that tree. And then we have a tree-friendly streetscapes capital line that we pair with the sidewalk line so that when we're putting new sidewalks in, we can put the tree tunnels in, what Mirza was referring to as structural soils. It's basically a stone with pore space that has soil stuck to it, and it directs the roots deeper and under the sidewalk. We do it downtown all over the place and are having a lot of success with that. So now we're trying to build sidewalk systems to last so that we don't do the insanity of the repeat heaving. But when it comes to an individual property owner outside that system, they are generally stuck with that problem until either they fix it or we, the city, can come and do it. with the exception of the exceptional specimens. And by that, I mean trees that are generally over 2 feet in diameter and are in good or excellent health.
Okay.
One is right next to your house that I'd like to talk to you about afterwards, Councilor Williams.
Oh, why can't you talk about
know
it
the one.
publicly here? What's the story?
I know the one very well.
Yeah.
Also, Steve, are we doing like deviation around trees instead of taking down trees to install?
We do try and do that, and we have done some. It really just depends on how much real estate we have to work with. Sometimes the right-of-ways are really tight, and when they put the sidewalk in, they're trying to keep at least a 1-foot buffer between the edge of the sidewalk and the right-of-way, and we try and preserve that best we can.
If it goes, like if a owner says, I'm fine with it deviating like a little half circle or so into my property to keep the tree.
That has happened in the Wild West days. I mean, there used to be times when we wouldn't even be notified by DPW that they replaced the sidewalk 2 decades ago, and then trees would just end up in the road. But now that is a problematic scenario that you laid out, so we try and find other alternatives. Every street is different. Every right-of-way width is different. The space between the curb and the sidewalk are different. So the wider all those things are, the easier it is.
Commissioner Robinson, can you talk about just the increased coordination that our departments have had over the past couple of years and the way that the system does work together to deliver things like our sidewalk program?
So yeah, over the last couple of years, we've shuffled the deck in water and parks with commissioners, but the communication has gotten better. We got Robbie over at water. He came from DPW, so he know our lineage. So we work really good with water. And Saisha is, I've known her for years, so we work really good. So the coordination now, it's getting better, Counselor. I know that you had some concerns, but I think over the last year or two, I think things are getting a little better.
That's good.
I
appreciate it.
Concerns with coordination with the county, because the county has also done work in the city and much appreciated, but they also have removed green right-of-ways and put in paving in some areas, and no one's maintaining those pavers. So when vegetation's growing through them, or they get loose, who's responsible for those?
It's county work, it should be county.
Okay, well, because it's in the city.
So as prime example was Colvin, right? I mean, they had a major.
Salina.
Yeah,
So-
they had a major project down there that, had us hamstring for
Yeah.
months.
And also where I've seen like some of the ramp part, like the ADA ramps that were done incorrect and then had to go back in and redo them. That's a waste of money at the same time, tying the project up even longer.
So we do have communication. We do have a person that we do reach out to in the county if we have any issues, and we try to, let them know of any issues that we have, whether sewers, sidewalks, or whatever they have. And they're pretty good with responding, but they can get better, I guess. And we'll try to stay on top of them as much as we can.
Okay.
I think maybe Councilor Williams, maybe at some point, we want to talk about the numbers regarding the sidewalk program.
Yeah.
With the bonding, how much it costs every year, and whether the fees we're collecting are coming close to offsetting what we have to bond for.
You talked about $7 million projected for the upcoming year. Roughly, what are we going to take in with fees?
When the program is fully up to date, it's $4.5 million. Is that correct, Neil? We're in year 4 of 5 of that ramp-up schedule, so it should be approximately 80% of that, so 3.8 million or so.
And then the other, we need to make up 4 in terms of the construction maintenance program, and then another $500,000 to $1 million in terms of the clearing. You mentioned an additional funding source being CHIPS. How do we get that money?
That's a great question. So we've actually been working on this from a multi-department approach. Again, just that issue of interdepartment coordination. Right after this meeting, I'm going over to a 2-hour work session between a half dozen different departments to ensure that that process for our reimbursement is fully, everyone knows exactly their roles and responsibilities and is crystal clear. So that's coordination
Will
between
you
the
be
contractor, the DPW, and the finance department to have all of the different pieces in place to go back to the state transportation, Department of Transportation, and say, here's the evidence that this work was done correctly, on time, photographs, et cetera. Please reimburse us for the portions that are eligible.
Contractor, DPW,
Finance department.
finance.
Are the 3 primary players there.
And who is the owner of that flow?
It is a shared responsibility between DPW and the finance department, and I think that's part of the root cause of why there's been a little bit of challenge in just understanding each department and each stakeholder's role and responsibility. This is the second or third in-depth work session that we'll be having later this afternoon to make sure that everyone knows what's expected.
In terms of what we've done prior, have all of our eligible projects been submitted to New York?
Jeremy, do you have a thought on that?
I don't, but I can get back to you on that one.
Yeah. And if not, can we retroactively submit? I'm going to guess the answer is no.
No, there
You
is
know, to be
a
clear.
fairly long time period in order for us to resubmit. I believe it's 18 months from the completion of the work being done. And it is a bit of a cumbersome process to collect all that information in the right way. And so part of that is updating the contracts for some of our infrastructure partners to require that they give us the materials in as streamlined of a fashion as possible so that city employees can review, confirm, and then pass that along to the state fairly seamlessly.
And, you know, the CHIPS is something I have a little bit of knowledge, but not a huge knowledge. Not all projects are eligible. What are, I guess, do we have a list of those that are eligible compared to those that are not? Or how do we even identify what we have the potential to be reimbursed for?
That is an excellent question. Oh, that's a question for finance. And Mary, do you have a thought?
Finance, huh?
Oh, Neil, go ahead.
Good to see you all again. So, yeah, CHIPS is an established program, Consolidated Highway Improvement, something. There is a list of eligible activities, and once you claim CHIPS, you can't claim CHIPS on that segment of roadway for another 10 years. So you start with the most expensive piece, which is going to be paving. We're on that street. We're taking this dig once type of approach, dig least. If we can do coordinate sidewalks, if we need sidewalks as well, ramps, curbing, all of those things are eligible because they're related to the highway, which is an outdated term to use on a locally owned street, but we didn't come up with it. So there are a lot of eligible costs, but we don't want to claim any of those unless we're paving the street, because that's the big one.
And so that tracking of projects, tracking who's done what, when it was done, when is it eligible, all of those things speak to the justification for those data systems to track that coordination across departments.
Yeah. And Neil, can I get you for one more? Do we have the ability to be creative? You know, I know that there's a lot of conversation around pedestrian infrastructure. Can we get creative with our CHIPS funding? You know, I know there's a bunch of different buckets. One's like numbered highways, and there are a couple different pools of money that we have under the greater CHIPS umbrella. Can we, you know, I know it's an issue true to your heart, you know, how much flexibility do we have in terms of what we do?
In terms of what we claim for CHIPS?
Yeah.
What we claim is up to us, but again, if we claim something on one block of street, if we claimed one flag of sidewalk on that street and we got that reimbursed, we couldn't claim anything else on that street for the next 10 years. So even if it needed to be paved in 2 years, we wouldn't be able to claim it. So we start with the paving process, but there is some flexibility. You know, there's equipment purchases, there's other things involved in CHIPS as well. It's a fairly rigid program because it's dictated down to us. But in terms of how we finesse it, you know, we're always trying to do our best and improve. And I think part of what Connor's getting at is the coordination piece in the submittals is a big piece of that.
Yep.
But it's a lot of money that we can
Yeah,
get back.
and looking at what's happening with agency after agency at the federal level, state level, you know, our partners throughout the non-governmental organization, you know.
Yeah,
world.
my stuff's drying up.
If we have money, we should get money spent.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Period.
Neil, who'd you go for in the Super Bowl?
Go Birds.
Ooh.
All right, I think I'm done.
I'm good on money, but I'd like to keep that going.
On to sanitation carts.
Hey, is there any other questions in regarding this? We're all set. We're good to go. Pro temp, we good? Sanitation carts.
Let's do it.
Guys need a 30-second breather. You know, are you good?
Yep, take a break.
Oh, Commissioner,
Noted, noted.
I couldn't tell. I was like, I've seen those. Do you want anybody else?
Is that you?
I'm good.
I said I don't want to see those ankles on any advertisement.
For the first time, I saw the other day in my street, the trucks using the arm. I was like, oh my God, finally.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a question. Someone.
But we can wait.
all right, we're going to go back, resuming the rest of our committee meeting with our last item, one of the hottest topics that ever happened in the city of Syracuse while I was here, I guess I can say. And that would be our citywide transition to trash and recycling carts. We'll discuss the slideshow here, and then we'll go into other questions and things like that that we have many complaints about. So go ahead.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Counselor. And, I know that we were intended to have a meeting on this a week or two ago, and, we're here now. That's all great. But just wanted to, respond to or acknowledge your comments about, hopefully this 90-day extension can be shortened if we're, satisfied with the progress of the educational components of this program. Right. So I wanted to back up for a second because I think it's really helpful to take into account the massive accomplishments across many different angles that we've worked on together over the past several years with our sanitation overhaul program, right? So we've purchased and distributed sanitation and recycling carts, well, sanitation in 2023, recycling carts just a few months ago, and distributed them to every single eligible household across the city, right? It's about 90,000 carts, 45,000 recycling, 45,000 sanitation. We've also worked with some partners to introduce turn-by-turn direction system in all of our sanitation carts and create with a local software company a first-in-the-nation code enforcement module for our sanitation cart and illegal set-out violations, right? And then finally, going into this fall with the transition to biweekly recycling, and as part of that turn-by-turn directions, we optimized every single sanitation and recycling route in the city, right? We went from a 15-route scheme to a 12-route scheme, and that required 26% of our residents to change the day of their pickups, right? So asking a little over a quarter of our residents to change the day that they set out and to use this entirely new system has been a lot. Fully acknowledge that, but it's been an incredibly successful program, as we're going to talk about in just a minute here. So in addition to the outcomes, some of the work that got done to make sure that residents knew what these changes were going to be and that they knew what their expectations were. This was the largest public communication effort of the past 7 years of this administration. Right? We've had more than 60,000 social media views and impressions, the likes and comments, things like that. And we sent out over 300,000 postcards to residents, right? In addition, all of the letters that have gone out on various steps of the program, the packets that were received with each of the carts, the sanitation and recycling carts, and then the news media around this issue, right? This has been an absolute game changer in how the city handles one of its most intimate public services, right? And we've seen some incredible results, right? In the first year of the program, we have saved $2 million in workers' comp injuries for shoulder injuries. Shoulder injuries are down 90%, right? And that is probably the most important thing that this program has done, that we've provided that these individuals who work their tails off every single day, we're ensuring that they can get home in the same condition that they came to us that morning, right? There's nothing more important than that, right? But in addition to those worker safety savings, as part of that route optimization exercise, we identified $600,000 in efficiencies that those crews can now be used for additional services, for bulk pickup, for illegal setouts, things of that nature, right? And then finally, a quote from Andy Jacobowski back here in the corner of the impact this has had on neighborhood cleanliness, right? That's an incredibly challenging thing to measure, right? But from the crews on the ground whose job is every day to pick up some of these code piles and these illegal setouts and these issues, Andy wrote to us and he said, it's only been a few weeks, but the impact of the recycling carts has had on litter is extraordinary. He and the crew leaders think this is wonderful. They're able to cover more ground and reach a broader area across the city.
Was that your best Andy impersonation?
I thought it was a pretty good Andy impersonation, but I'll work on it, right? So then just getting back to the scale of what it takes for city employees to deliver this service to residents, right? Last year, DPW completed 3.5 million sanitation and recycling pickups, right? This requires the coordination of dozens, hundreds of employees from sanitation, fleet management, environmental services, city line, and BAA to make this happen, right? And in addition to the excellent work that those crews do on the standard sanitation and recycling pickups, we offer a number of other services without additional fees, right? Waste and leaf collection, construction debris, 4 bulk pickups a year, 4 tires per year. These are all things that throughout our region, in other municipalities, residents have to pay extra costs for, right? And we do that with no additional fees. So looking at that 3.5 million pickup figure over the course of the past year, for the week that we went back to our standard operations, we were able to issue violations and warnings, right, and fines, right? Just to remind everybody of what this process entails. When something happens incorrectly, and things happen, right? Nobody is perfect. I myself, a couple weeks ago on a holiday, put out my cart on the wrong day because I forgot that it was a holiday schedule, right? I'll own up to that mistake. It happened, right? But the way that this works now is that if something goes wrong, our sanitation crews and Sam Perry, our sanitation inspector, put the violation notice on the property or on the cart to say, hey, it was a mistake. You have 24 hours to fix the mistake, right? And the vast majority of our residents see that mistake and comply, right? So to the week that we were in operations, and we only have this 1 week of data, of actual operational data, right? The week from January 6th to January 11th. Every week, our sanitation and recycling crews do 67,000 pickups, right? Of those 67,000 pickups, 40 warnings were issued, right? 40 people made a mistake. That's pretty good. And of those 40, all but 12 fixed what happened, right? That leads to a compliance rate, 99.98%. That's 1 in every 5,600, something like that. We actually struggled on how to communicate how small an issue of 0.02% is, because it's 12 out of the entire week that happened there, right? And we want to make sure that we're in a place where our residents know the expectations to them, and that we're providing a fair and balanced approach to how we can handle some of these issues, right? There are some individuals that we could print them a glossy notebook and give it to them every single week before their pickup, and there would still be some issues, right? And that is why enforcement is an incredibly important part of ensuring that there's compliance with the ordinances that the city and this council have put forward together. So that, I think, is the end of our presentation. We believe that this program has been an absolute grand slam of a success. I would struggle to think of any other service that requires a delicate symphony or ballet of dozens or hundreds of people to provide this service that has a compliance of 99.98%.
I know you talked about resident, how it has helped on the resident side, and as far as the incidents for harm to the workers. But as far as the route optimization, that improved on one end, but I know that it also was to take the employees to like five full days or something.
So part of that was balancing the system,
Yeah,
right?
so how's that?
It's been fantastic, right? So
No complaints.
Ben, any complaints about the balancing of the system?
How we made every day even, and so some days there was, really light, Mondays were super heavy, and then within that you had some routes that had 200 and some that had 700. So making it all even, do you want to come up, Ben? The response from the employees about Monday being lighter and then the routes being more fair.
Ben Kalesa, Assistant Super Sanitation. The route optimization has definitely improved our department. Routes are equal. Every day of the week is pretty equal. Mondays aren't the day that we got all the call-ins anymore. Just because it was a hard day. We took a couple routes off of Monday and they shifted the entire city's schedule off, and it really made an improvement in our department as far as the route optimization goes.
So Monday, day after Super Bowl, everybody showed up ready to work.
We had one down route. Yeah, it was a really good day given the year that we've had.
So my trash is picked up on Monday, but I have a question, maybe we can answer. So after they're done, and I leave mine on the edge of the curb, so it's not on the curb so people can park there. Can we put it back up onto the curb instead of leaving just onto the curb,
That's what we try to have our
Okay.
guys do, is keep
Less
it out of the
space, right.
road, out of the middle of the driveways
Right,
with all the
because we
snow
don't
we've
want it to
had.
get hit, and then we don't want
Right.
someone to bring a suit against the city. My
Right.
car got dinged and all
Counselor-
that, and all
Counselor,
that
I think
stuff.
it goes both ways too. I see residents doing it as well, so I think
Yeah.
all of us, and all of us together as a team would like to keep it out of the roadway. And sometimes that means if you have a snowbank, you may have to
It-
shovel
it
a
is
spot for
hard.
it
It
because you
is
don't
hard
want
right
it, if it's
now.
you don't want it in your driveway, but you don't want it in the road, you may have to shovel a little
Yeah,
spot for it.
once we try to do, yeah.
And I'll add something too about the violations that we write. You know, you guys hear about all the complaints from the citizens complaining about it, but when we write the violations, neighbors will come out and say, thank you. You know, that house is producing so much litter around our whole little street. You know, thank you for doing that. But, you know, you guys might not hear from those people that are literally coming out
Right,
and
so now
thanking
when the
us.
litter, and the bags are
Overflowing,
Overflowed,
overflowing
you
cars,
won't
our guys
take
gotta
it.
try and balance.
So you
it
don't
to-
take it.
We are now because of the hold off on violations.
Right, because I had a neighbor who's a new American, and you would have fined him, but I went over there and I took his extra trash, put it in mine, so he wouldn't get fined. Now, which is unusual for a council to do that, but I didn't want him to get fined. It's just that we got just an
I hope
overdose.
he
of-
votes for you.
Oh, he will, I'll make sure of that, and I got a few others, because I take care of my constituents, but that's another thing. We want to make sure the weather gets better, and I know there are people probably don't understand, new people, that you got to get a container and all of this.
Well, unfortunately, Counselor, I feel like the incident that you and Ben just
Right.
spoke of overflowing trash cans that Ben is forced to take right now because of the warning period being extended, that the chronic violators that are just getting a little sticker placed on there
Yeah.
are going to get it every week, and they're just going to keep violating
Yeah,
because
there's
they
some-
think the warning
yeah.
period is indefinite and has no
If
ramifications
you give
for
a
them.
list of some of the chronic ones on my district, if you give me some of the addresses, if you can.
We,
you know,
we
I
can
mean,
certainly look into that, Counselor. One of the
Thank you.
challenges is that with the delay in issuing violations and fines, we've had a limited ability to monitor the system and understand where some of those violators or frequent
Right.
flyers might be. But just to get to your point, Counselor, when we did do the day of service change and the switch to biweekly
Right.
recycling, we worked very closely with Adole over in NBD, who's our new American Outreach
Right,
Coordinator,
good.
to make sure that all of those communities had translated information and that we were going to trusted voices in those communities to educate them on what those changes were so that they could go out to their residents and neighbors and house of worship, fellow congregants, to communicate what those things were. And in addition to that, Councilor, speaking about the sometimes people, you throw a party, you've got a busy load that week, right? We've provided, and working with you all, the opportunity or the ability to purchase a second sanitation cart.
Okay.
And that also there is the ability to use one of your 4 bulk pickups as an overflow, right?
Right.
And then finally, just, it was the holiday season. I got a couple kids. I had a ton of cardboard. I held back a little bit of cardboard on my recycling because it wouldn't fit into my can. Kept it in my garage for a little bit. You want to be careful in the heat of the summer with garbage. You don't want to cause any other problems. But it's possible to hang on to some extra cardboard for the next turnaround.
I want to say thank you, and that's what we do, is we try to reach out to the new Americans.
Absolutely.
And it's hard, because there's a language area.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I ask something I've always wondered about?
Go for it.
Okay, we pick up our trash, then what happens?
You want to know where it goes?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a waste to energy facility here in Onondaga County, and that is over on Ruckert Road. It is owned by Okra, operated by Covanta, which I think has a new name, Reworld. And so it does get burned and turned into energy. I believe 10 years ago, it was enough to power like 30,000 homes. I think it's more than that now.
And when we pay Okra, do we pay based on volume or tonnage?
Tonnage.
And why do we hold people to a volumetric, a trash can of a certain volume rather than to
I
a
don't
weight?
have a scale on the truck to be able to weigh it.
Styrofoam, right? We get a big bunch of styrofoam, fills up the whole can, weighs nothing. Meaning we
It
pay.
does go in the trash, so I appreciate you
right?
on
So
that.
we pay nothing. It just seems funny that we're paying based upon weight, but we're holding people accountable to volume. They're 2 completely different things.
Yeah, I don't have a means to weigh it, so, and honestly, in my 17 years, I've never seen in the country anything else.
That was the response that I was going to provide. Is that's just the industry standard, the way to do it. I definitely hear your point that we do have to pay tipping fees based on weight, on tonnage, right? And so what weighs more, a pound of bricks or a pound of feathers type deal. But yeah, that's something
And,
that
I drive down the street and, look at the trash cans that are full, and I always think, what's in there? You know, is it
You're like me, you're always wondering what's in there.
is it
that
you know
trash
just
can.
taking up volume, or is it truly heavy?
Yeah,
Well, I think we learned that a lot of people aren't recycling also, so
yes.
that's could be the part of it. I was going to ask, well, one, I have a question from Tomorrow's Neighborhoods Today residents. The Southside TNT sector, someone asked about the paper going into the recycling and why they aren't able to just put it in a brown bag. I thought they could put it in a brown bag. I thought specifically they didn't want like a plastic Tide bag with like paper in it. But they were adamant that it was stated not to put it in a bag.
Yeah, when Okra came for, I think, our last major committee sessions on this topic, Okra did clarify, I believe Kristen Lawton clarified that they don't want any bags at all. It all, just to expand upon your, where does it go? So the recycling here goes to the Recycle America Waste Management Facility in Liverpool. And it's kind of like high-speed sorting lines, like conveyor belts, where it sorts it all. So if it's trapped in a bag of any kind, the plastics and paper inside there are not going to go to the proper place. It all needs to be loose and free to be sorted properly.
It's actually really neat. Will you share the YouTube clip with the council?
I think we have, and we will do it again.
Are you saying that
You'll recognize the voice.
they're not
concierge.
taking the brown bags, trash?
Yep, you can put brown bags in there for sure.
Oh, okay.
But Okra prefers nothing be bagged itself.
Got
So
it.
even within that brown bag, they prefer nothing bagged. It just kind of gums up the works at the sorting facility.
I think, and
No
we
one's
might
going to
have
arrest them, though. No one's going to be
Well,
like, you're
I mean,
recycling
I
wrong.
guess it's more or less a little extra work for the crew because I think that this individual has seen where paper has flown about during the tipping process.
Gotcha.
So they were kind of like, why can't we just put it? It's easier and it's less work if they have to clean it up.
And just to that question, Counselor, Ann might kick me under the table, but we're not expecting every individual to be perfect in what they recycle or not recycle, right? When in doubt, throw it out. But it's okay that a berry clamshell or something by accident makes it in, right? Like our goal is not perfection. Our goal is giving residents the tools to recycle correctly and to the best of their ability, and dispose of their trash effectively.
It would be the egregious things that Ben is going to cite someone. If they're using that recycling cart as a second trash can and just filling it with garbage, they've got a TV in there. We had a toilet, I believe, one day. I don't even know how they got it in there. So that's so egregious. We need the ability to cite those people and correct them.
So just to be clear, a toilet would be under bulk set out?
Construction debris.
Oh, so that doesn't go out until the construction
Correct.
debris
Yep.
time? Okay. Or they need to take it to Okra themselves?
That is correct, yep.
I have found, I think that is probably one of the things that people least understand is the 4 bulk pickups. I don't think any of that.
Bulk versus construction debris or
Well,
just
no,
bulk?
I don't think people realize that they got 4 bulk pickups a year.
I mean, we've sent them postcards
I know,
and all
I'm
kinds
not
of things.
blaming
And the
anybody,
city
but it's
service
just one of
guide,
those things
but
that people aren't
yeah.
aware of,
So, Counselor, one of the things that I'm looking forward to introducing in next year's budget is using the same technology platform that our turn-by-turn directions uses to provide an additional module, additional feature of that technology so that residents can schedule their own bulk pickups, right? And that you can communicate, hey, this is your 4th one, this is your 3rd one, and that kind of deal. And just providing residents with more information on that type of program, that service that we provide, and streamlining the process so that we're not taking up 2/3 of City Line's time with scheduling a bulk pickup that can be easily done with a click of a button.
So on the bulk pickup, and I'll come back to the cart stuff, but on the bulk pickup, this is just something that happened to me with tire pickups. I had a property where my address is on one street, but trash is picked up on the side. And so we set out some tires. They never got picked up because I'm assuming they were looking on the street side, the front street side.
Yes.
And so then it's kind of like, I don't think I can call again for this same pickup because that takes away from one of my, so, I mean, kids play with tires. Are we, like, are the tire pickup person reporting that we didn't see these tires?
Yeah. No, I would feel free to call City Line again and say, I'm not calling in a new request. You know, it wasn't picked up, and let them know the side of the street it's on. And we were actually, we have a radio now in City Line that communicates directly with sanitation. And so it's been a really, like, bridging the gap between the two departments, and the communications just, I think it's been wonderful. And the residents are getting a much faster response. City Line's getting resolutions faster, and sanitation's able to act on it immediately and give that feedback. If there was a problem, they're able to say, no, we cited that because of this, and they're able to, City Line can then correct it with the resident.
And back to the cart. So in your report, basically, when it comes to us, it's hysteria about the ticket itself, but basically majority of those tickets are not producing a fine
Correct.
at the end.
If they correct them within 24 hours, it's just a warning.
Yeah.
And over since we've made these investments in our tracking technology, our enforcement technology, and the way that residents can pay those fines, we've consistently seen about 70% of violations get remediated correctly by residents.
In 24 hours?
Within the 24-hour period, yeah, before Sam would go back to issue the fine.
The only complaints I have is they throw the sticker on the, and sometimes that sticker blows away and they can't find it or something like that.
Not on the door, but on the item or the cart, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, and I'm not sure if Sam is doing that or not, but the door part, I don't know if the door is happening for everyone, or if the sign is, if it's blowing away. I have no idea, but I know that I was fined once, and it wasn't mine. It was like I have a lot, and a small portion of the lot belongs to a neighbor. Majority of the portion belongs to me. So the trash was like right on the line, but it was theirs. And I got fined, but I never received the door sticker. And when I drive around and I see the sticker on the trash, I don't see a sticker on the people's door, but it could have taken it. I don't know. But I'm just wondering if the door sticker is being done.
Leah Whitmer, Director of the Municipal Violations Bureau. So the underlying law that governs this whole process allows for the employees to put the violation sticker that Ann's talking about, that's just the warning, on either the door of the property or the violation, which if it's the cart, it's the cart. If it's an illegal set out, they can put it right on the couch, right? We've gone back and forth, and I've worked with them when we rolled out the process, and we've got the new automated enforcement, as Connor mentioned, and you could do it either way, and somebody's unhappy, right? We see it all the time.
Don't use that door, right?
Yeah,
is what
you
we
could
hear.
use the door. If you go to the
So-
door, then the workers have to, trudge up there and deal with being harassed by the property owner or the tenant. You put it on the set out, maybe they don't see it because it's facing the road. Either way, somebody's unhappy, so we have advised them to use your best judgment. I mean, Sam does both. If it's clear, sometimes he'll put it on the property. We ask that they take pictures for city evidence purposes. They, take a picture of the violation, and they take a picture of the warning sticker affixed. So if it's on the set out, there's a picture. If it's on the door, you can see the door. Just so that now with the automated process, they have their evidence. By the end of Q1, we will have the back-end portal for enforcement available so that people can go online and see those pictures and be able to see them posted, right? So that is coming. And I think the other important thing to know as you're evaluating whether to speed up the ability for fines and whatnot is there's an adjudication process, right? That's where I come in. There's that back-end process. Like Connor said, everybody gets the warning stickers. I got one as well over the holidays when my husband put like a plastic bag in the recycling. It is now stuck on my recycling cart, so everybody knows my shame. But most of the people are complying, right? And even if you aren't, you still have the right to contest it. Yeah. You can, do that right online right now through the city website, through my department, And then soon you'll be able to do it through the new portal. So you go in, you can scan the QR code on your ticket. It'll take you right there, show you the violations, the pictures that Sam or Andy or whoever have taken. You'll be able to see all of that and then decide, okay, do I want to pay? Do I want to contest? And again, that is that teeny tiny percentage of people that didn't comply, right? And, you know, my employees are talking people through those things all day, every day, right? People call, we'll explain it, and then the process, and they can go through that. They can, you know, my judges review it, issue a decision, and then they have the opportunity to appeal as well. We just did an appeal panel. We had 4 legal setouts on there. Again, compared to the number of actual warning stickers that then get fined, you know, it's such a small percentage. And then with this new system as well, regardless of where the ticket is posted, eventually we will have the ability to send an email. So right now my staff mails a copy of the ticket. Because it's mailed, it's usually at least a day later. Again, under the law, it's a courtesy copy. We're not required to do that. We have a temporary solution where there's a MailChimp email that property owners can opt into, and a lot of the big landlords do, and they can scroll and see. This would be an individualized email to you saying, hey, you just got fined at this, or not fined, sorry, you just got a ticket, warning for this property. You have 24 hours to correct it. So that'll speeding up that process too, so that, you know, nobody can say, hey, I didn't see it. Well, if you've opted in, and you'll have to opt in and make an account so that we have your email, you'll get that information.
And just some clarity on the entire program. What for the larger apartment buildings, what is the number of units that they can get the recycling carts, and then the
Common Council decided to leave that at 10 units.
10, okay.
So 10 units, you can get trash and recycling carts. Obviously, you would know my feelings on that. And over 10, you have to get a private hauler.
Okay, I don't know why 4 was in my head.
4 is what the Common Council decided on for mixed use.
Okay.
So they are inconsistent numbers.
Okay.
Yes. If you want to change it to 4,
No,
I'd be happy to
no,
submit
no.
that legislation.
No, I happened to see a building, and I was wondering why they had carts, because they were over 4, so that clarifies that. I had one more question, but I lost it, so. Anybody? What was my other question?
No. No.
Councilor Guthers, any other questions about the efficacy of the program?
I can say no at this point. I mean, with the other purpose, with it having fines and stuff like that, holding the fines for 90 days, just the same thing that we talked about today were just some clarifications from the other council members that couldn't be here right now at the moment. But just given the fact of holiday time and things like that, and we've been running into so many calls and complaints, not saying that anybody's doing anything wrong, but just wanted to give it some time and grace to whip it all together, get a brighter understanding, more clear understanding as to why you guys are making the decisions to do things the way you are. And then we can have a conversation to see either we amend the 90-day suspension or we keep it as is. But
If you have any like specific suggestions, we welcome them.
now, well, as she stated, I'm happy to hear about the landlords having that ability to.
Yes, they've been asking for that for years, and Leah's obviously finding the route to get us there. So
Not to point the fingers, but do we have more fines and illegal setouts based on apartment buildings or two-family houses and things like that?
Sam, would you say it's like rentals or apartments, or where do you see the most violations? Or
Also, my other question can add to that. Are we keeping track of the numbers of like people reporting, I got fined, but was an illegal dump? Like someone else put this here?
Well, I don't know about that, but I get the questions a lot, or they would say to me that I didn't put that there. My answer to that is, unfortunately, we got a site where the violation lie. I can't be the judge or the jury. It's up to the individual property owner to make sure that, that their house is in compliance. So it's a civil matter, and I would let them know it's a civil matter. It's illegal to someone to dump or place trash on any property other than their own. Technically, the same owner cannot own a property on West Street and dump trash on the property they own on Kellogg Street.
Yeah.
It got to be generated from the property, the origin of the property. So it's a civil matter. You do have 24 hours to rectify it. I suggest that you reach out to the property owner, the neighbor, whoever doing it, and I'll have a conversation. But ultimately, at the end of the day, is up to where the violations, where the property that was cited, it's up to that individual property owner to rectify it. And there are some little areas where you take into consideration. Like I had one last week on Park Street, where carpet was up on the roadside green space area, and I spoke with the resident, and he said, "Well, the city plow, not from this came out because there's a lot of snow lately. It was here and up there, down in my yard." So I took care of that. You know, I put that in for Andy to pick that up. But ultimately, it's a civil matter, and up to the individual property owner to make sure that they maintain their property up to code.
Sam, regarding rental properties, like, are you seeing more violations from 2 families, 1 families, big apartment complexes?
Not a lot of large complexes, but there's a lot of rental properties. I think primarily of the properties being cited is the smaller rentals, the 2 families, 3 families. That's primarily what I cite a lot, because if it's the individual property owner, it's their best interest, and they right there to handle it right then and there, in their interest to make sure that they're not being charged or being responsible on their taxes, so they'll take care of it more frequently. What I am seeing, though, it's a lot of that 10-12% that repeat offenders, same people over and over and over again. And I think, as far as at my 2 cents on it, I think we went beyond this warning phase. You know, is the people complying by now, or are they not?
So in that 10 to 12%, on that fine, because it does go to the owner of the property, have we added, you have the ability to purchase an additional cart to kind of alleviate?
The owner can, certainly. The tenant.
But is it on the fine, I'm saying?
Oh.
Because the owner gets it in the mail if they don't live there as well, correct?
It's not on the fine, but that is if the situation, if it's an overflowing or too much trash issue. But sometimes I deal with a lot of early, late set-outs.
Oh, okay.
There is a question of just how much information we can fit on there. It does link to the city's website that does have all of the information about how to purchase a second cart. And I was going somewhere with that. Leah,
We
you got
can
something?
keep that in mind for when we have the QR code in the portal. We could pop that right, because again, like Connor said, it's all going to go to the same place. So it's going to take you, we're building out that Ames web portal right now. We can put anything we want on there. So obviously, we've been working with comms to make sure it has all of the information that's been pumped out to everybody. Like Connor said, all of the communications that have been to city residents. And just real quick, the illegal dumping, again, that's something that, the property owner could submit evidence for, and they could dispute that. If somebody had police records, those things could be weighed by the administrative law judge during that review process. Yeah. And those judges are checking all the other systems that DPW uses for bulk set-outs, illegal dumping, to see, what's the city evidence, what's the property owner evidence.
We have had illegal dumping going on. We get tires dumped at the Vietnamese Community Center. We have other issues. So people are coming from out of town and dumping.
And that's unfortunate. Like Sam said, at the end of the day, it's on your property, it's your responsibility, right? So you do have that 24 hours to pull it back, to get something, file a police report, take care of it. And then on the back end, my judges would weigh all of that to decide whether that $350 is valid, because at that point, you didn't do anything with it.
Right, so I have an elderly person was on Ash Street. Somebody dumped two of her now, and she felt very angry. She came down to City Hall, and it happens to elderly people, and now it's her responsibility to get those TVs out. She didn't put them there, so she's very angry. And it's like, well, where am I going to find the money? You know, these are sometimes, these are calls I get from a constituent, too.
I completely understand,
You know,
and
and
I
I know
think
you do,
the
you know.
flip side of that is my staff are dealing with those calls all day, every day.
Right.
And like everybody said, I think just echoing the turning fines on and off and on and off, you know, the Sani crews and my staff, which are all city employees as well, they're dealing with all of those heated calls and all of those heated interactions. So I think it's a fine balance. And
Yeah.
like Ann said, if everyone
Yeah.
can work together, hopefully, you know, soon we've got a really great system.
We have a couple good residents over in Stedman. They seen illegal dumping. They do photograph the vehicle.
Good.
And we
And
send-
call the police.
Yeah, call the police.
And
I
we
call them,
direct
call the
people.
police.
You know,
That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
As far as this on again, off again, I think at this point it's confusing the public. I have a lot of communication. I call it a lot with the constituent when I'm out. They ask questions and everything.
Yeah.
Also, I mentioned that they can have the opportunity to get another cart.
Yeah.
So, but as far as on again, off again, it's almost like learned behavior. I see it a lot when it's someone putting the trash and debris out early, as far as construction debris out early. Well, my neighbor's doing it, so I thought it was okay. So what happened if, in the same situation with the trash, if I'm not allowed to cite that, they see the neighbors doing it, it sits there, they figure it's okay for them to do it as well. But if I came by there and cited the day before and picked up the following day, they might not have time for it to sink in, saying it's time to set this trash out. So it's confusing. I think it's confusing the public. And from what I'm seeing on the streets, it's gotten, I think we backslid a little bit in that area. Because you're teaching people, people are learning to understand this is the process, this is the way we're going forward. They put the brakes on, trash start to accumulate again.
Yeah.
And people think it's okay to do it again. I think it's a setback, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think that the on again, off again for us was more or less that the back on situation was too close to the holidays. So our main concern was people adjusting to the recycling cart every other week. I still don't know what week mine go out, but I don't take it out, but I don't know what
You're
week
right.
it is.
That is the biggest issue, what I see, or what can be a potential problem. I struggle with it myself. This is what I do. Did I take trash out last week? I go talk to the wife, consult with the wife, you know? But as far as, Onondaga County was required to recycle since 1989. That's, you know what I mean? That's a long time, 26 years. And I think, so we always had recycled. We always had taken out trash. The difference is size of the container. And I don't think,
No, I don't think the size
know
of
what I mean?
container, well, yeah, I guess the size of the container is now because now we have that bi-weekly because you have a larger
Right.
can. And so I think the people getting used to the bi-weekly schedule is one thing. Now, we could have possibly gone back to the finding of the trash can while we still try to work out the recycling portion to make sure people are, you know, getting up to date on what they need to do. But it was right at the holiday time, so
Right.
that was a big concern for us. So moving forward, I think knowing these numbers, I think we may be fine with. We'll discuss stuff, but yeah, it was the holidays are always a tricky thing, and even like, you know, holidays in the summer, we want to make sure that people are aware that they have bulk set out so that they're not getting fines.
Right.
And so I guess transparency on the front facing end for residents is like our main concern. So.
Absolutely. I very much appreciate that, Councilor. Glad to
Thank
hear that the presentation was compelling in terms of the numbers and performance of the system. Councilor Geathers, I know we're about 15 minutes over time. Is there any other questions that you have?
Way over time. Put me in for 4 hours on this
good.
overtime slip, you know. It is.
All right. Always happy to answer any other questions that you or any other councilors may have about this program.
I do have one situation though on I think it's on Dawes Ave, I believe. There's an empty lot and the guy has a bunch of pallets over there. I've been getting thousands of
Lord
complaints.
Jesus.
I don't know if he owns that lot or not, but I was told he doesn't own a lot. So how do we go about
Dawes
that?
Ave, do you know the block?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. What
like
is
it's a
it?
little
Slating, yeah, slating, yeah.
You'll run into it.
Do we have to check with?
I do. I do a lot of things outside of my purview, or I think it's part of my position. I alert Brian Eisenberg, the vacant property department.
It's because of your great experience in that department, Sam, and we
That's
really
that's
appreciate
a bonus.
it.
That's a bonus,
Yes.
knowing that. So I send Brian an email daily of illegal set-outs on the curbside, as well as something on the property. I would take a photo of that and make sure he's aware of that, and he was have Andy or the contractor take care of that. So
Brian
I'm
Eisenberg.
familiar with the palace deal there.
He is in charge of vacant properties, Brian Eisenberg and Code Enforcement, just to clarify.
I tried to cover it up with a tarp, but I can't keep ignoring my phone.
Right,
Not
right.
answer. I don't know. I can't say that, but that's just
It is
one
bad, though,
situation
yeah.
that I want to let you.
Sam,
We
can you
take a look at that one.
Well,
take
take
a
a
look?
look at the whole area while you're
I
down
will.
there.
I normally do. I normally
just
do.
gave him
I know exactly where you are. That's the area, to be honest with you, it has depleted a little bit.
Yeah.
And that used to be a area where you want to be.
Right.
So, and as a city anyway, we want to try to preserve the areas that are just teetering.
Yes.
Trying to maintain that quality of life. And I think trash is one of the lowest hanging fruit there is.
Right.
And it doesn't, as a general contractor and a code enforcement official, assistant director of code, I understand that everyone don't have the resources to paint a house in 2 weeks. Okay, so you work with them. The house paint's fall off the house for 5 years. It's not gonna hurt to let it go another 6 months. We can work with them. But it don't take any extra cash or money to deal with trash, to pick up trash, And so it's a low-hanging fruit. And I think that that's something that shouldn't take a lot to curb it. We just got to work together. I get email from the counselor all of the time, and I appreciate it. It's not a burden to me. I appreciate it,
Same accent on it too, fast.
Fast, right. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Sam.
I have nothing else to say.
All right.
You sure?
I think I'm done.
You okay?
Hearing no more questions or anything like that, thank you both. Thank you, everybody,
Thank you.
for coming. Thank you for taking the
Thank
time
you very
out for
much.
being with
Thank
us.
you.
This will conclude the meeting. Thank you.
Sam, really.
Allow me to multitask with other issues on the phone. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Okay.